Hi, welcome to Snag. Today we've come down to Porlock Weir, beach guide here. So we're in the car park to start with, and it's a good sized car park. The new charges are over here. Oh, sorry. So there we are. The new charges there. Basically here you come in and then you pay on the way out. Many people make the mistake of paying on the way in, and yeah, you'll come a cropper. Don't. Always pay on the way out here. It's done by ANPR cameras as well, so everything is logged. So this is Porlock Weir. You can't fish down here, but it's good for collecting crabs if you should be after them. In fact, it's so good they hold the World Crabbing Championships here. Generally speaking, we don't fish in front of the car park. It's just too bouldery, snaggy and nasty. Over to the right there, we've got red sands and the entrance to the marshlands, which I'll do after. But today we're going to focus on fishing what some locals call Turkey Island up to Gore Point. It's a stretch of Porlock Weir beach. It's good. It's cobblestones like Bossington, like down here in front of us, and it's not too uncomfortable, but let's get over there. So it's just a short walk from the car park. It's across the bridge over here. For those that like a drink, there's a nice pub there to ship in. You can always get a nice drink. They do food as well, which is nice, and it's not ridiculously expensive or anything either. It's all quite good stuff. So I'm just going to keep it on while we're walking around today. If you're down here with the family in the summer, you got the harbour store down here as well, and you can buy ice cream and crabbing kits, you know, all the general sort of stuff you find at seasides. There's a couple of smaller companies to the left as well, one being Exmoor Glass. Some funky stuff in there, and there's a few crafty bits a further way round. I think one of the guys around there actually has started selling some small fishing bits. Don't expect like a tackle shop, but I believe he has some bait and, like, you know, basic rigs, things like that. So I've come here today. It's after high tide, but I figured I'd show it while you can see in here, and you can see where the water comes in. So lots of anglers tend to go around the back of the cottages here and then cut up onto the beach. There's a gate down there, and just follow it up onto the beach. That's one of the marks that anglers tend to choose if they choose on the beach here. If not, you can go down the side here. It's a public footpath which takes you onto the beach, and you come to a pillbox that's slightly subsided. So if you're into history, there's lots of history around here. All the American GIs and everything that built all of these. Actually, over on the Red Sands site, I believe there was a German Ju-88 bomber that was downed. A few people taken prisoner, housed in minor police station or something during the war. But there's been quite a few deaths on there as well, in actual fact. But anyway, here we are. This is the first part of Porlock Beach, and this is probably the easiest part to fish. From here, I've chosen to come here today at high tide, so that one, you can see how tall the tide line comes up. It's not a massive tide, it's not a low tide though. But anyway, here you're going to want a good 80-yard cast to clear all the cobblestones. Even at low tide, you won't see the sand that it goes out onto unless it's like an exceptionally low tide round here. And even then, where you're fishing, you won't see it. You'll just see it to the right hand side. This can be as good a fishing mark as anywhere along here. There's nothing wrong with it. If you're coming here for the first time, I would definitely give it a go. As I say, high tide, 80 to 100 yard cast. As it goes down, about 30 yards to clear all the stone and everything, and then you're onto sort of broken. It goes on to like sort of sand and seashells. There's mixed in mud. It's a bit of mixed ground. It changes at times during storms. If you lose more than one rig here, you know, you'd be unlucky, to be fair. So we'll carry on along here. And sorry. So it looks like something's washed up here. Or a bit of a boat or something, not quite sure. So it's not terrible walking along here, it's quite solid underfoot. Some of the stones obviously move and twist, but oh, it's the front of a boat. Not something you see every day. So this is the next sort of spot that I generally come to. There's a second pillbox just there with a trailer, and you'll see the like valley between the hills there. Follow that down and then basically fish in front of that, facing out. The first mark I just showed, just down there by the sunken pillbox. Again, it's clean ground pretty much. You'd be unlucky to lose any leads. If you do, then don't fear about losing more. Generally speaking, there's not snags out there. Occasionally anglers will leave a line snag. If you cast short at high tide, your line will get covered, your lead will get covered, and it's quite snaggy in close. These cobbles all move. So next mark that I tend to fish more during the summer, this one, you'll see here there's a small fence line that's sort of broken down over the years, and during the summer this is a good mark to come here for smooth hounds. You'll catch them off this point. I don't know what's different or why, but I come here on a flooding tide, and during high tide you want a long cast here. You want 100. You definitely want 100. If you can clear 100, even better. You won't have any problems. So anyway, this is be in line with this fence line. So it's broken down, like I said, and you can't really go wrong. So just fish out in front, set up on top, and blast away. Maximum distance is always good here. Distance isn't always everything, but it can get more snaggy along here. As we go along towards Gore Point at the end, that is the snaggiest point of this mark. So directly opposite over there, we've got Bossington Beach, which is, for me, I think, definitely one of the best marks within the Bristol Channel for consistency and variety. And as you can see, we haven't come that far along, but these points that I'm pointing out, they do make the difference sometimes between catching and not catching. So carrying on along. As we come along here, expect to lose a rig. Use a rotten bottom setup and you can't really go wrong, really, you know. Might lose the odd lead, but it's not terrible. But I find the more you come along here, the better the fishing gets. Or at least for myself anyway. Not that the fishing's bad here, this is a pretty consistent mark. And it always keeps reasonably good salinity because you have all this salt marsh behind, which obviously helps keep it all in, even when it's been absolutely honking down with rain. It keeps it good. So the next mark, it's these two little bushes. Just in front of this big bald one at the moment this is my preferred mark here. If I can get in front of this, this is where I choose to fish if I come to Porlock. So fish here, you cast out, you got a good strong like sort of tide flow coming off Gore Point, which is literally just a couple of 100 yards up there. I find that the fish sort of come out and they come across your mark here. They're well within casting range. Again, you want a 100-yard cast here at high tide. Low tide, it's not so bad, but you still want to be going, I'd say, a good 50 at low tide, just to make sure you're clear of everything and you have a better enjoyment. At this mark, you'll get hounds. I find you pick up a few more rays here as well. I've had spotty, I've had thorny, I've had blonde. I've had a blonde ray up to 12 pound here. So, not that Porlock's really known as a ray mark, but you can tend to get them. I've also had quite a few tub gurnard off here, and not bad size, eating size. And for those that don't know, tub is a really good eating fish, so worth coming along. Long thin fish strip baits works well. So as you're coming up here now, you're really gonna need to use a rotten bottom. It could be a leather cast. I don't generally come up this far, but if you want good bull huss fishing and you want good eels, this can really produce up here for you. Depending how the tides have been with the winds and the storms, will depend how many leads that you go through. And this is coming up to what's known as Gore Point. Again, you'll notice just over here there's a dip in the hills. If you get between it, then you can cast out. Up here I've had some good fish. Normally when I've got a collection of old leads that are naff and knackered, I bend one of the wire legs round and just cob it out, and it's to be lost. It's already lost the top off it or whatever, you know, so they're rotten dead leads. Chuck them on a rotten bottom, out they go. So up here I've had good cod, up to £5. I've had some decent whiting, and actually over £1, which is not bad for this part of the Bristol Channel. There you go, plenty of wild bird as well. But the huss and the eel fishing up here is good. It wouldn't be hard to find a double figure huss at the right time of year. If you comb along the beach here, you'll normally find a lot of mermaids purse, so that's a sure sign that they're in. You will find the odd ray casing as well where they've come in to lay. I've never had a ray this far up, but it doesn't mean they're not here. There you go, you've got all sorts of wildlife around here if you're into that. You've got pheasants, and you've got all the wild marsh birds that come down here, birds of prey as well. So I'm just going to go right up onto the point. Occasionally I will fish here, but like I say, it's when I've got enough sort of rotten leads that I don't mind losing them. Because let's face it, they cost enough these days, don't they? Even if you make them yourself, you don't want to be chucking out good leads. Gets a bit more bouldery up here too. The stones are bigger. There's a lot more weed up this end as well. Now here, although big baits can be good, they can also hook up quite badly on the rocks because you're using the thicker gauge wire and everything else. It's the hooks that will snag you up. Although you've got a rotten bottom on, you still may not get it back. So I tend to use long thin baits on a pulley rig. Oh. And then I use a thinner braid and I honk it out as far as I can. So this is Gore Point. On a large tide here, the push is strong. You won't be using less than 7 ounces if you want to keep it on the bottom. Sometimes it's 8, so obviously It's whether your rod can handle it as well. So this will be the roughest part of Porlock. You're now probably about 350 metres from the end where we first started, but out here you can get some really good fish, but you can also get some really big losses. So it's whether you're prepared to take that risk or not. So you can go further on. Again, it's super heavy, snaggy ground. I never fish around there, absolutely no point. A bit further on you can do some bass fishing, but be careful because tides can cut off. I'd highly recommend getting a guide first. There's myself that covers this area, Craig Butler and Andy Bovera. I don't know who's got what qualifications, but I'm qualified with the Angling Trust. I think Craig is as well. I don't know what Andy's are, I haven't looked, but all super guides, all know the dangers of the area well, and well worthwhile looking up. So up there you can see like the rock formations that are coming out of the ground. It's all black, snaggy, full of weed, but there are some sweet spots you can go. The headland that's pointing out furthest on, that's Porlock Point. Come back one, you've got Ivy Stone. That can produce some stunning fishing, especially on spin gear. But again, you want a guide with you. You get cut off there, then if the RNLI don't get to you in time, you won't be coming back. It's a very serious tide around here, and it comes right up to the base of the cliffs. So this is Porlock Weir, and yeah, the main points I've pointed out today are definitely the best places for fishing. So someone's smoking us out. Okay, there we go, through view of it. That's the marshland behind. Just behind the boats you've got the Porlock Weir, a few shops, pub, this, that and the other. Then along this bit you've got Porlock Weir, straight across Red Sands, and to the left you've got Hurlstone Point and Bossington. The tides here on the flood go from left to right. They can be strong. Strong spring tides will produce a lot of fish, but they can also produce quite a few problems if your leads aren't heavy enough. So bring a selection of gear with you, and yeah, that's it. It's Porlock Weir. On to the next one. Thanks.